This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cavins.
Greg, let's start here. Tom Brady's vibe this week. What do you see? What do you hear?
Yeah, so I wrote about this yesterday at bostonsportsjournal.com. And, I'm one of these guys who I like to observe athletes, and especially athletes that I've been around for a long period of time. And obviously I've covered Brady up close, going on 11 years now. And I've seen different iterations of Tom Brady at Super Bowls, and they've all been different in my opinion. Whether it's at the height of Deflategate, what was going on there, the undefeated, even in 2007, I was there covering for, I think it was a Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. I was at that Super Bowl, and that week it seemed like the Patriots were pretty uptight, I thought, going for the undefeated immortality type of thing. And so I've seen different versions of Brady. And this week, Nick, what struck me watching him and his media availabilities this week is Brady just really seems at ease. And it's not that, look, Tom Brady is probably as polished as anybody when it comes to his media interactions. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing. I'm not saying that it's a front or a facade or anything like that. I mean, I generally think that Tom Brady is a really, really nice guy. And in those settings, he really wants to be helpful. He doesn't give the greatest answers in the world, but he at least comes off as very sincere and things like that. And so we saw a lot of that, but he just seemed really relaxed to me, Nick. And that led me to think, all right, well, why? Why is this week a little bit different? And a few things came to mind. Number one, the Bucs are at home this week. So that means no hotel, and also, the whole COVID situation where normally these guys would be, as soon as they get in, they change it a little bit, but basically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're at the practice field or they have these media availabilities, and they're in these big rooms, and you got to go table to table, or Tom's at a podium, and it's mass chaos, and it can be a bit overwhelming for a lot of the players. Tom takes it in stride, but this week is different. He gets to be at home. He said his wife and kids are gone. He's by himself. He has this sort of fortress of solitude. He only has these Zoom meetings when he has to do them with the media this week. And I just think it's very comfortable for him. And I think it's very conducive for the way he likes to work and get prepared for a game. So I think that's one thing that stood out. Secondly, I think the Bucs offense has gotten to a point in the last, say, 6 games or so where it's a lot more Brady-centric, and he's a lot more comfortable with what's going on. Now, is it perfect? No, and there's some things that we'll talk about in terms of the Super Bowl matchup, but I do think, the difference between this matchup with the Chiefs and the first one, the Bucs in the first matchup just went with 5 offensive linemen, 5 guys out in pass patterns, and it didn't work well for them offensively. And since that time, they've become very they use the run a lot. They keep the tight end, usually Rob Gronkowski, in to block a lot as a 6th offensive lineman. They often keep a running back in, so that's max protection, and that's allowed the passing game to be a little bit more successful. So I think that there's some comfort there as opposed to earlier in the season. And I think that also he realizes that he's on a pretty talented team, that this defense, he doesn't have to be a one-man show, Nick. He doesn't have to be perfect.
Yep.
Like, he could throw 3 interceptions in the second half of an NFC Championship game and they can win. And I think that's a lot of comfort. Nick, I don't know if this is accurate, Nick, but I heard the stat this week, and I heard it on Mike Lombardi's podcast that they said that 45% of the Bucs points this year have been scored off of turnovers. I mean, that's amazing, and that's been a big part of their success down the stretch, including in the playoffs. Between the Packers game, the Saints game, they made their living off of turnovers. So I think all of those things combined, Nick, has led to Brady's just caring a lot less this week,
right?
Where normally, especially in the latter part of his Patriots tenure and the second part of the dynasty, that he really had to be perfect, and especially in the second half, fourth quarters of games for the Patriots to have a chance to win. And I don't think he has to be perfect with this team. I think that's a testament to the Bucks, to Jason Light, to Bruce Arians, that they have a good young team that's been ascending. And I think it's just made for a more relaxed Tom Brady. And I think that's trouble for the Chiefs going into this game.
I think he's at ease. I don't know if that means it's trouble for Kansas City, because I
Right.
think Kansas City's got some things that they feel comfortable and at ease with as well. I mean, when you're the Chiefs and you have that offense, I don't think, they're too concerned about Brady's mind frame and all that kind of stuff. But for Brady, yeah, it's nice. It's nice for him, I'm sure. I don't have a lot to say about it, quite frankly. I couldn't care less if, tense or fine. I don't think it matters much when the game kicks off. I think it's whoever plays the best, and I think Brady would say the same. So with that in mind, let's look at the matchup. Let's look at the Bucs offense to start against Kansas City's defense. And Greg, I'll start here. Steve Spagnuolo versus Brady. And when you look at the history of this matchup, Brady's had some good. He's had some really good moments against Spags. But Spags, compared to a lot of other defensive coordinators, he's been able to limit Brady. And he usually kind of throws the kitchen sink at Brady. He's going to give him everything. 4-man rushes. Then he's going to have guys drop back. He's going to sprinkle in all sorts of different stuff against Brady. I think that's one of the most pivotal matchups in this game on Sunday. How does Brady perform with that computer he has now, right? He always says, I feel like I have the answers to the tests. Well, we'll see if he has the answers to the Spagnuolo test, because I do think Spags is going to scheme this thing up, and he's going to challenge Brady and see if he can play as well as he has in certain moments, and really test him and say, okay, Tom, I've seen you throw the football away, which Tom has done a decent amount this year. I'm going to try to test that and see if, instead of you guys taking advantage of turnovers, it becomes a disadvantage for you on Sunday.
Yeah, Nick, I think it is a very important matchup. And look, Spagnuolo has basically been kryptonite for Brady. I mean, he really has been. Both in terms of wins and losses on the big stage and regular games, and also in the statistics. And there's a couple things that are constants with Steve Spagnuolo and his scheme, especially when it comes to playing Brady and or the Patriots. And it's that he likes to bring pressure.
Yep.
When they played in the regular season, I think it was the first two third downs. Spagnuolo came with 0 blitzes, and the Bucs are going to have an answer to that, and they're going to have one. And one of the things where I've seen them struggle over the course of the year, and I have a fear that a lot of the things that we've talked about over the course of the season with this Bucs team, about how they haven't exactly totally meshed offensively, and this is sort of a first year type of thing, and you see this a lot, is that Brady is used to different answers when it comes to pressure, and whether it's sight adjustments, route adjustments, all sorts of different things in the Patriots offense. And the Arians offense is more of they go with hot routes, where there's a designated, all right, if you see a blitz, then you're going to do this on your route and give the quarterback an option. They've struggled with that at times. There's a lot of times where there will be pressure, and whether normally it's Mike Evans. Normally Mike Evans is the answer to pressure for Brady and the Arians system, where it's usually a quick hitch or, go deep. And we even saw it in the Packers game, Nick, where that interception along the right sideline, where it looked like you're like, where the hell was Brady throwing that ball? Like, Mike Evans was supposed to do something different. And that's been an issue for these guys this entire season. Now, can they fix it in 2 weeks and have better answers? Maybe. But I do think, Nick, and I think you brought it up before, I think the Bucs running backs are really going to have a big game in the passing game. And they've struggled a lot at times.
Yeah, I mean, Leonard Fournette's had a good playoffs, but he has struggled catching the football, hands of stones at times. And when I look at this Kansas City defense, Greg, the one guy I think that Brady is going to challenge over and over and over again is Bashaud Breeland. I think he's tried to look at him, focus on him, and try to attack him. And I think Breeland understands that, because this week, I'm paraphrasing, but he pretty much said, I'm excited to be able to highlight my skills and spotlight what I can do. I think Breeland understands that he's going to have a target on him. How do you feel about Bashaud Breeland as a corner? Do you think he's the weak spot in that secondary, which frankly, Greg, has been much better than I expected them to be. They're young, they're fast. I think Kansas City's secondary is overlooked at times. To me, one weak link, though, is Bashaud Breeland.
I think you're right. I think Breeland's sort of a boomer bust cornerback. He's very aggressive, and sometimes that helps him. Sometimes it really hurts him. But one of the big things when you talk about the secondary and Spagnuolo, and I don't think Spagnuolo can do it with this group. Maybe he can. Maybe I underestimate what they can do. But in terms of how you beat Brady, and I remember I've had these conversations with Spagnuolo over the years. He's a local guy, and I've always had a really good relationship. And with him, he always has talked about you need to change up versus Brady. You need to do something, whether it's your pressure or your coverage on just about every snap. And Dan Orlovsky went back and he watched the 2007 film, and he came, and I remember looking at the film myself at the time, and I came to the same conclusion too. And this was also, you would notice this with Rex Ryan's best defenses against Brady, is that it seemed like they played a different coverage on every snap. And those are the type of things you need to do. Like, you can't just go straight man or two man or robber coverage against Brady. It's just, he'll figure it out. And you have to mix it up. And you also have to mix up how you pressure him, because he's going to come to the line and he's going to try to have the answers to the test before the snap. This is where Spagnuolo is better than most, is that he will have different looks.
Yep.
And this is where I don't know if Brady and these Bucs are quite ready, because with the Patriots, you knew that Brady would be able to come to the line, all right, try to get them into something and a dummy count or what have you to get them to reveal what they're going to do. And then all of a sudden he would give hand movements and this and that. And I just don't think he does that much with this Bucs group. So can he take a look at Honey Badger, who I think is really the X factor? And even when you talk about Breeland, you're going to see snaps, Nick. Trust me, you will see snaps where Honey Badger is in the middle of the field before the snap. And by the end of the snap, he's helping Breeland double team somebody. And so that is going to go on. And are the Bucs going to be able, is Brady going to be able to say, hey, they're in this, I'm going to check to this? Are the Bucs going to be on the same page? Are they going to be successful doing that? I have a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, it's the kitchen sink that I mentioned. I think Spags is going to throw that kitchen sink at Brady. One more thing to look at is Rob Gronkowski. He had a really good game against Kansas City this year earlier in the regular season. We'll see if that carries over. Kansas City's offense, and I remember, looking at this offense before the year and saying, well, they get to the Super Bowl, we'll know why. And yes, again, this offense is really good. And now you look at this matchup of that offense against the Bucs defense, and we have to start here. I think it's necessary. I think it's maybe the most critical point of this entire game. Kansas City's offensive line. They're missing their starting tackles. If you look across the board, they've got Wisniewski, who was picked up from Pittsburgh after they released him in like November. They got a couple of seventh-round picks that are in the mix there. They've got a guy playing left tackle that hasn't played left tackle since 2016. So you've got this Kansas City offensive line, which I think is very challenged, versus a defensive line of Tampa who has shown up. JPP, Shaq Barrett, Vita Vea, and even though Ndamukong Suh can take some plays off, he also can impact the game. Greg, I think it's absolutely necessary for this Kansas City offensive line to be able to hold their ass in the trenches for Kansas City's offense to do what they want to do.
Without question. I think it's the biggest matchup in the game. I mean, you're talking about Mike Remmers at left tackle, who is barely a tackle in general. And you're talking about Wiley at right tackle. Wisniewski is just an average sort of journeyman backup type of guy. And I will tell you, as a whole, this Kansas City, the way they are right now, is one of the least athletic offensive lines that you're going to see. And what is it about the Bucs defense? They're fast.
Yep.
They go all over the place, and that's going to be sort of the give and go in this game. Now, Patrick Mahomes is the X factor. Like, he might have bad protection, and he has at times. Last game, he had bad protection, and it doesn't phase him. It doesn't slow down the offense. Can they keep him confined to the pocket and make him uncomfortable and keep him from being Patrick Mahomes? That is the big key in the game. Now, if you're the Chiefs, if you're Andy Reid, are you thinking about, all right, am I going to help him? Am I going to keep Kaiser in? Am I going to go more 2 tight ends and keep an extra tight end in to block? How are we going to deal with this? But I think aside from the rush, it's how are the Bucs going to take care of Kelce and Hill? We've seen with the Patriots, you're never going to hold them completely down. You're just trying to keep them probably around 100 yards each. And Nick, a big indicator in this game to me is going to come very early with the Chiefs. What are they going to do with Kelce? Are they going to give him free releases off the line?
Oh, God.
Or are they going to knock the snot out of him and throw off the timing?
Yep.
Because, I've seen Todd Bowles before, and he will change up, but he's a guy who gives tight end free releases. I've seen him do it with Gronkowski over the years when he was with the Patriots. And I worry about that. If Kelce gets free releases off the line, I think it's going to be a long day for this Bucs defense. And I think Hill, you have to find a way to put a safety over the top of him.
Agreed.
I think you'd go with, probably Murphy Bunting on man coverage with him. The Chiefs are getting Sammy Watkins back in this game. How effective is he going to be? But you got to find a way to put a safety over the top of Hill, try to keep him in check. Then again, the Chiefs have also developed a lot better answers than they have in the past to that. So I think they're a handful. That's why you're right, Nick. The big thing is, can they get pressure on Patrick Mahomes and make him less effective? Because if they can do that, then they can keep the scoring down. Otherwise, I don't know if the Bucs can win a shootout in this game.
Todd Bowles is going to send pressure. He can't help himself.
Yep.
He absolutely loves to do that. And if Bowles wants to get an idea what to do against this Kansas City offense, just in case he forgot about week 12, just pop in like it's 1985, Nick. Pop in a VHS, put up the old digital of the game against the Bills, because what Leslie Frazier did, Leslie Frazier's game plan against the Chiefs was so bad that it gave David Culley the head coaching job in Houston. Like, that was as bad as it could get. They never were physical with Kelce off the line, and they gave him free releases all day long. They singled Tyreek Hill a number of times, allowing him to run those crossing routes. I mean, it was a nightmare. You've got to double Hill, and you've got to knock the crap out of Kelce. Who's your X factor in this game, or what is your X factor in this game on Sunday, Greg?
Well, I think that for the Bucs, I think that Gronkowski needs to have a big game. I think that the tight ends are part of the answer against this Chiefs defense. We saw Gronkowski, like you said, have a big game against the Chiefs the first time around. That was vital. I think that they've sort of kept Gronk in reserve a lot of this season, the second half, the 2 weeks. I think they might feel a little bit better about him. He'll have a little bit more bounce in his step. Certainly, I think he's going to be a humongous factor in the red zone. Use him as a post-up player. So for the Bucs, I like Gronkowski in this game. I really would like to see Scotty Miller be more of a sort of factor for Brady. I think he's very underrated. And for the Chiefs, I think it's Honey Badger. I think he is the type of guy who brings his best game in the biggest games. Brady is going to be aware of him on every snap. That still doesn't help. I just think he has a chance to really blow up some plays, and it would not be a shock to me if he has sort of a big game-turning play in this game and sort of gets the Chiefs on their way to a victory.
You mentioned it earlier, the idea of Mahomes' ability to escape. They say escapability in football. You mentioned that, and I have that as one of my major X factors in this game. And it sounds kind of weird to say Mahomes is an X factor, but it's the game within the game. It's how he performs against that pressure. It's what Andy Reid calls as well, along with Eric Bieniemy. Do they get the football out of Mahomes' hands quickly, consistently? And when they decide to dial something up, is Mahomes going to be able to beat the pressure? And if the pressure starts to get to him, his ability to extend plays and find open men. When you look at this Tampa defense, this Tampa secondary, I don't think is great. And, they're pretty good at safety. The problem is both of their starting safeties are banged up. Winfield and Whitehead were both limited yesterday, and they might end up being game time decisions. And this Tampa secondary against opposing quarterbacks this year, 25th in completion percentage. So when you look at that, if the Tampa rush doesn't get home, and if Mahomes with his creativity and his ability to extend plays, I think he's going to be able to pick apart that defense on the third level. So I think that's a huge, huge X factor. All right, Greg. So we talked a lot about the game a little bit earlier. Let's get to the pick and the MVP. Kansas City, Tampa Bay. Who do you think wins this game? I think the line is what? Kansas City -3. Who do you think wins this game, and who wins the MVP?
Okay. I think that Kansas City wins this game. I just think that they have too many paths to victory. They can play right-handed. They can play left-handed. Mahomes can probably throw the ball behind his back if he needs to. I just think there's just he's just incredible, and he's just really tough to defend. You can't hold him down. He finds answers eventually. I think with the 2 weeks off is going to help him be a little bit healthier. So I think that the Chiefs. I think that the Chiefs win this game, and I'm going to say 37-27 in this game. And my MVP, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to win because they sort of default on this. But my 1B choice for MVP is Travis Kelce. I think he's too much of a mismatch.
You took my guy.
Defense. Oh, I did. And but those are my picks.
Yeah, go back to the James White game right against Atlanta. Come on now. He was the MVP. Brady thought so, gave him the truck. It always goes to the quarterback. So, yeah, we'll probably see Mahomes be named the MVP. I had Kelce down as well, which means, of course, yes, I also think that Kansas City wins this game. I think Spags will do enough against Brady and that Tampa offense to limit them. I don't think he's going to stop them, but I think he will do enough to limit them. And as you said, Patrick Mahomes is just always the X factor. I feel like the way I broke down last year's game against San Francisco, I said this, it's on record. It's going to be a close game. Shoot, Kansas City might even be down, I said, when they were going against San Francisco. They'll get into the fourth quarter, and then Mahomes is going to make a play. You're going to say, oh, my goodness, he made that play, and then Kansas City is going to end up running away and winning the game. And I still feel that way when you play against this team. We've seen the Patriots play as well as they can defensively against Mahomes. They give Mahomes fits, right? Belichick
shut him out in a half for crying out loud.
Belichick does the best job against Mahomes, relatively speaking, when you look around the league and what this guy has done. And still, he finds a way to put up 27, 30 points. Like they're going to find a way to put up probably 30 or more. Now, the weather is supposed to be kind of shaky, might rain a lot, so who knows what that brings. But if you're telling me it's neutral and there's pretty good weather, yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs. I just think Mahomes is really tough to go against in this moment. And I don't think Tampa has the secondary, especially with their safeties banged up, to deal with everything that Kansas City can throw at them. So, yeah, give me Kansas City. I also would not be surprised if Le'Veon Bell plays a role in the passing game. He's been quiet all year long, and I feel like this might be one of those games where, Bieniemy and Reed pull him out of their back pocket and say, all right, Le'Veon Bell's going to have about 5 catches for 50 yards and change the dynamic of this game. Let's get to the member question of the day, bostonsportsjournal.com. Check them out. 11 cents a day on their annual plan. You get top-notch analysis of all the Boston pro sports. And, of course, if you're a Patriots fan, and you get to listen to this podcast and enjoy the membership with tons of video analysis from Bedard and also direct access to him in the weekly chats. So usually I have a nice question in front of me, but this time for this episode, this is what I got from Greg. I'll find one eventually. Did you find one?
I did, because I posted my BSJ member chat for Friday. So
Nice.
So questions have started to roll in, but I decided to go a little bit. Let's go a little bit off the map on this one, and I think you can participate in this, Nick. Packers boys, who in my member chat just peppers me with questions. There's like he'll do like 15 of them at a time. Like it's just unbelievable. So let me pick one of them. He says basically snack and food at House Bedard and his Felger coming over for the Super Bowl. So let's just go with sort of your optimum Super Bowl spread. Your sort of 3 or 4 essentials that you need to have. So for me, for a Super Bowl, and I'm not used to being home for the Super Bowl, but I like being home for the Super Bowl. Number one, I got to have something to snack on. So my preference is I'm good with a good medium salsa, but ideally a spinach and artichoke dip type of thing.
Okay.
For my meal, I'll probably grill out a couple steaks, not snakes, steaks. And
You grill
even
some
though it's
rattlers
cold
on
out,
it? You got to grill some rattlesnakes on it?
yeah, some rattlesnakes. So a couple steaks, and I definitely need I would prefer a really good shrimp cocktail, some really
Oh, how
fresh,
about that?
fat shrimp,
Mm.
and I think and obviously I need a good buffalo wing, and I don't go exotic. I just want good, solid, a little bit spicy. I need some blue cheese. You give me all that stuff, I'm a happy guy. What do you have?
All right. So I think you've got to talk about my wife's dip. And Kelly makes this great buffalo chicken dip. That is a must-have. That's part of the equation. I'm not big on spice. It's just spicy enough, makes me sweat a little bit on the forehead, but it's really good. So give me some of that. Also, I think it's absolutely 100% necessary to have wings. And to me, I'm actually a boneless wing guy. So give me some
Ooh.
boneless wings. Sweet and spicy is a flavor that I like. It's kind of a mixture of all sorts of different things, but give me that. I'm not a blue cheese guy with wings. So I'm a ranch guy with wings. So give me about 5 buckets of ranch to go along with like 35, 40 wings. And I guess you can also throw in nachos, but nachos are tough to make at home. So
Yes.
I don't know if I'd go with the nachos thing at home. I'd go with the buffalo chicken dip. I'd go with some chicken wings. And, I also like the idea of having this Mexican cheese dip that Kelly can make as well. It's really, really good.
Oh,
So,
you guys are dipping up the wazoo over
yeah,
there.
I'm a big dip guy.
Yes, so.
I'm pro dip all the way. But dad, I'm pro dip. Yeah. So that's what it's going to start looking like. And of course, I don't know if you include beer, but craft beer. October.
I wish I could partake, and maybe I will, because it will be tough for me to watch the game. But I'm gonna have to write something after the game, and the amount that I work during the football season, I have a beer or two. Forget it. I'm asleep by halftime. So I need to be on my game for the members over at BSJ.
Yeah, I feel like I don't drink a lot on Sunday because I do the show on Monday, and people don't understand because of course that they don't do a radio show, but you've got to have a lot of energy. And one of the worst things that you can ever do is have to do a radio show with a hangover. I did it when I was younger, and then I learned it's awful. You've got music and stuff blaring in your ears. You've got to be at level 20 when you do a show. So yeah, I'm not gonna go crazy. That's more like Friday, Saturday stuff for me. But yeah, a couple of craft beers at least are gonna absolutely be on the list. Which reminds me, one of the true crimes of the history of America is you and I not having enough beer together. I think we've had
Seriously.
I don't know 4 or 5 beers. I know we had a beer or two. And what was it? In Atlanta, we had a beer or two. You and Bert had a beer or two. And then I think we had one in Mass at some point, but we got to get together and have some beers because
Yes.
I know my guy Greg can drink some beer. I know I can drink some beer. So there you go. Super Bowl 55. Subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Tell your friends and family all about it. It's the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles. We both have Kansas City winning on Sunday. We'll react to this game and get into some Patriots next week. Until then, be safe, be good, and be healthy.